Welcome guys to Morning Coffee with AP. Today your question is, do I have to be eating 6 meals a day? Is that the most efficient way to either burn fat or build muscle? Stay tuned. So welcome back guys to another episode with Morning Coffee with AP. We got the Man Mug in the house. Man Mug in the house, and today we're talking about how many meals should I be eating? Do I have to be eating 6 meals a day? Just because that's what they've always told us, right? We have to be eating 6 small meals a day to lose fat, to gain muscle. That's the most optimal way, all that kind of stuff, right? Well, let me tell you that that is not my actual opinion on the best strategy in order to reach your fitness goals, surprisingly enough. And I'm into bodybuilding heavily, and I still really don't believe in that. And here's why. It could be, but it might not be for everybody, and this is why. Backtracking for a second, we have to really understand what is our goal, okay? If our goal is to lose weight, okay, body fat, or losing body fat, then the best strategy for your nutrition isn't how many meals, but what's the best way to approach it so then it's flexible around your schedule, you're able to sustain it. Sustain what we've covered in previous videos now, a caloric deficit, over an extended period of time, right? And so sometimes, with our busy schedules, we're not even able to eat 6 small meals a day just because it's just not feasible. It's not realistic with our schedule, and it's going out with family or friends or stuff like that, right? Work. So doing the 6 small meals though is totally fine. I like to sometimes do 6 small meals when maybe I am having some, digestive kind of bloating issues where my big meals make me feel just really bloated. So I like to maybe split it up, make it smaller, so it's just easier to get down and digest and get on to the next meal. But it is a lot of eating during the day, and you have to have time to actually cook and do that, right? Which is not always feasible for everybody. But for actual fat loss in general, it does not even matter how many meals you're eating. You could eat 1 meal a day as long as you get in the amount of calories that you should be getting in, hitting the macros. If you get it all in within that 1 meal, you are totally fine. Now, with that, if our goal is to build muscle, right? I would say that 6 small meals is a good approach, but I'd say that also the adherence part of it, the behavior, sticking to it is going to be most important first, just like fat loss. But here's where I'm standing with muscle gains and constantly fueling your body. The best strategy that I've seen with working with a lot of clients now, hundreds and hundreds of clients, as well as I believe there is some research or some literature showing some effects that I think they're leaning towards more of the most optimal way is 5 meals a day. And here's why. It really doesn't matter essentially like how many meals, but it's how many times during the day you're spiking leucine, which is an amino acid that promotes protein synthesis. It's the main one, stimulating mTOR pathways. And so if we're having maybe 6 small meals, but we sleep like 9-10 hours a night or 8 hours or whatever, then we might be bunching up our meals so heavily every hour and a half, 2 hours, that we are constantly getting protein in, which is a very good thing. But I guess my opinion now going into it is the actual what's called the gradient of leucine, okay? The gradient meaning there's a threshold of if you are taking in protein powder or just chicken breast or whatever protein source you're eating, there's the amino acid leucine in it. And so when we eat that, digest it, it elevates it in our bloodstream, right? And we're utilizing it to repair muscle. But I guess protein synthesis is more stimulated when there's a change in leucine in the blood levels, right? So if we're constantly having protein all day long, so say that first meal we have protein, we elevate it, and then an hour and a half later, when we're not even that has not dropped back down in the blood, it's still elevated a little bit, we have more protein, so it kind of stays level throughout the whole entire day. Well, that means there's not really a change in leucine, right? There's not really a gradient, is what it's called, or and if you're a math, like a delta, right? The change, the rise over the change in, referring to that. So what that means is if we maybe split it up into 5 meals, that, in my opinion, is the most optimal way as of right now for me, or what I've seen, or what I believe is to gain the most amount of muscle, where you're spreading out meals 3-4 hours, where you eat protein, you spike leucine, it comes back down, then you eat protein 3-4 hours later, spikes leucine, comes back down, so you're constantly spiking that leucine all day long, so you're constantly stimulating protein synthesis for recovery. But with that, also, why maybe 6 meals or 7 meals isn't the most efficient with respects to stimulating protein synthesis. With respect to digestion, I think that maybe the 6 or 7 meals, like if you need that, the smaller meals do really help with limiting the bloating and all that kind of stuff. So if you need to go that route, then that's totally cool. And the food choices are very important. But what I'm going with is, say you're having 6 small meals, the amount of protein that you're ingesting, say if you're whatever your macros are for that day, there's what's called a leucine threshold. Okay, so that's like the most amount of leucine your body can utilize pretty much at one time or uptake, and then the rest of the amino acids in your bloodstream pretty much are converted into glucose through a process called gluconeogenesis, and they're used as energy, glucose, right, for like carbs. Very inefficient process, but that's how they're kind of converted. So with that though, if you are eating a very, very minimal amount of protein and spreading it out during the day, you might not be really spiking those leucine levels very high. So that gradient really isn't that big anyway, so you're really not stimulating protein synthesis as well as you could. Maybe if you spread out your meals and you had more amount of protein in each meal, so the total daily macros of protein are the same, but in each meal you're having a bigger portion, more amino acids, so you're going from a baseline to a bigger spike and getting leucine levels elevated to that threshold level, actually, because you have enough protein you're ingesting, enough amino acids coming in that it spikes it higher, right? So we got to think about that. And so why I say that maybe not 2 or 1 meal a day is relevant is because of the same thing, is your body has a threshold, right? You can only ingest, or you can only utilize so many of those amino acids until you get to a certain point where you are not doing anything with it. You get to the leucine threshold, you're starting the recovery process of building muscle, but everything else after that, all amino acids after that, like I said, are just going to be converted into glucose through a process called gluconeogenesis. And what that's called is protein turnover. So have you ever heard of, you can't utilize all the protein that you ingest, or if you have more than 30 grams of protein per meal, it doesn't matter, it's a waste. So yes and no, like you can obviously ingest as much protein as you want, and I guess totally fine. But then there's like that threshold mark where utilizing it for these certain benefits that you're looking for is kind of turning into not, the amino acids aren't being used for that, they're going to be converted. That doesn't mean that you can't actually ingest them and utilize all the amino acids. Like if you have 100 grams in one meal of protein, I mean, that's fine. It's just like maybe it's not the best benefit if you were to spread it out during the day, right? So that is kind of my stance on that. If it's for fat loss, there's great things like intermittent fasting if you need it. I don't use it. I don't really abide by, just because a lot of people just get hungry in the beginning of the day and then they just binge in the evening. But say if you are mindful enough and you do intermittent fasting where you don't eat the first part of the day, it might help you control your calories, your total daily calories, where in the evening, if you have those bigger meals, it's fine because you're still hitting your daily calories to be in that deficit to lose body fat. But to eat 6 small meals a day is not the strategy. It's not like the end all of losing the most amount of body fat. That's not how it works. You guys know now from these videos that the caloric deficit is the main thing. The 6 small meals I've seen helps me with staying not hungry, especially if we're starting to get hungry for some reason. and then we're having a little bit of fibrous stuff in each meal. That keeps me full throughout the whole day. Or if you kind of take out the fibrous stuff, and you like to incorporate things like cucumbers and other vegetables that are not as fibrous, but in introducing starchy carbohydrates and stuff like that, it does help, I believe, in the digestive process of like just getting in, meals throughout the day, constantly energy, a supply of energy as well, so you're not like all over the place with feeling like crap and then like good and then crap. You're kind of steady because you have like a constant stream of food all day long. But anyways, I would say that for me, my opinion, 5 meals a day seems to be works very good. If you wake up, you have breakfast, and then with our busy schedule, we have some dry foods of maybe having a shake and a couple snacks, or a shake and a snack between breakfast and lunch, and then we have lunch, and then we have another shake and a snack, whatever, before the gym or something, and then in the evening when you get home from the gym, then you have dinner. That's just a simple schedule that works very well with a lot of people. So you can get in the amount of protein from those protein shakes and get your carbs in and stuff from the snacks. Then you get your fats in from breakfast and your dinner or whatever, right? So that's my kind of understanding and my opinion on things. It depends on your goals. Fat loss, doesn't matter heavily. I don't think that intermittent fasting, if going back to that, is like the best strategy for building the most optimal amount of muscle mass, just because when we're training in a fasted state or we're in a fasted state, we're more apt to maybe utilize, we're going to be trying to utilize some fat stores, but also potentially some muscle tissue if you're severely depleted of glycogen and stuff like that. So I like to do 5 meals a day because I'm trying to build the most amount of muscle as I can, and then being in that caloric deficit is going to be burning body fat. So anyways, guys, I know that was a lot, and I know I kind of went into a little bit of science there with the leucine and all that kind of stuff. That's more of just a literature perspective, or just kind of like a hardcore optimizing process. At the end of the day, you can throw all that out the door, and the main thing is, it doesn't matter, how many meals you're having a day. It doesn't even really matter what foods. You could be eating garbage and you can still lose weight, but at the same time, your bodily functions aren't going to be doing very well. You're probably going to have digestive problems. You're probably going to start bloating and retaining water, and you're going to feel like crap if you're not getting in the micronutrients from vegetables, fruits, getting in water, all that kind of stuff. But technically, for optimal fat loss, it's just that deficit, guys. It's just that caloric deficit of eating least or less amount of calories than it takes your body to sustain body weight. And with building muscle, we want to look at more of the total daily intake, in my opinion, of protein, and not just like one meal, but like the entire daily intake. So if you're having at least 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, it should be good to start out, and then you can raise it as time goes on. And then if you're like trying to really optimize the process, then you go into nutrient timing your protein, timing your carbohydrates. That's a whole other video. That's more in depth, and why I have like courses, which if you are finding value from this and want to learn more about the perfect strategy for you to implement, how to sustain it and around your lifestyle, you're stuck on just not knowing exactly what foods or the strategy, you're in a plateau, maybe you've been going to the gym, you're just not getting the results. Well, below I have free 7-day workouts you can grab, and then within that you can purchase my AP Nutrition Starter Pack. It's only $47, and you get all the tools I've been kind of laying out in these videos, but it's more in depth of customizing it for you, where it's based on your body weight, your gender, your body type. We go into macros of how many protein, carbs, and fats, and then we dive into more specific optimal things like nutrient timing and all that kind of stuff. So if you're interested in that to like kind of enhance and bring your level of performance to the next level in the gym, as well as kind of start optimizing your fat loss process or muscle building process, you want some help, definitely check out below some links I have that you can grab some of that stuff. But other than that, hopefully that was helpful. I like this video. I think it's very misunderstood of like the bodybuilder bro, 6 meals a day, chicken and rice. That's not what you need to do. You need to find something that you can sustain that you enjoy, and it's not making another job for you, but rather it's just a part of your lifestyle. So anyways, guys, that was another episode of Morning Coffee with AP. Thank you for watching. Go ahead, if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. If you're liking the content coming out, subscribe to the channel. Turn on the post notifications every single morning. I'm coming with a new one. And I really need some more questions for the next videos now. So go ahead, comment below any more questions you'd like to be on here, and I will definitely answer them. So talk to you tomorrow morning.